This is going to be one of those unique presentations. This is going to be chiefly different in the sense that I'm not going to talk a lot of tech. There's not going to be any keyboard shortcuts or anything like that. I personally was very, very confused when SharePoint was introduced to me at the city. And when I say introduced, I mean sort of talked about vaguely, you know, amongst coworkers and other business units. And I always brought up the question: what is SharePoint? What is SharePoint? How do you use SharePoint? What's this? How? What? Why? You know, there wasn't a consensus. There wasn't a rollout necessarily in the sense that it was a set of instructions. Here's where you start. Here's how it works. Here's how you do it. Because it's this type of ubiquitous thing that we can do a lot with, but I just had no basis to build from. So I started to build up that definition for myself, ground up. So I had this little informal survey where I asked people, you know, what do you think SharePoint is? And there was no right or wrong answer. I want to stress that there's never a right or wrong answer for this, because it's many things to many people. I said, is it a bunch of software bundled together? Nobody believed that that was. And at the time I took the survey, there was only 11 respondents. Is it for the new intranet? Yeah, kind of. Is it used as a project management space? Yes, it can be. It's where we track our raw days. Does anybody track their raw days in SharePoint? Yeah, our team does that too. It's very handy. Is it all of the above? Was this just a giant elaborate trick question? Yes and no. Again, there's no right or wrong answers, but what I really hope I can do for you today, if you don't already have a definition or an explanation or a use within your team or for yourselves personally of SharePoint, it's my hope that I can give you enough background information that you can develop that definition for yourself, much like I did. So I'm going to give you a lot here. Well, let's go over the structure of this presentation. First, I want to define it. I'm going to give you probably too many definitions for SharePoint, and I would like for you to take the best from each one and build your own. If these were ingredients, you'll build the recipe. Then I want to demonstrate it. What the heck is it? It slices, it dices, it makes julienne fries. Great. Are we working in a kitchen? Come on, let's get practical. And finally, it's my hope that you'll do it, that you'll find the inroads within your own work groups, within your own department, that you can try this stuff that I'm talking about. So defining it. This one I love. Okay, so definition. We know that this is a Microsoft product. It's Microsoft's SharePoint. So I went to the Microsoft site. I wanted to know, hey, Microsoft, what's a SharePoint? This is what they said. Microsoft Office SharePoint is an integrated suite of server capabilities that help improve organizational effectiveness by providing comprehensive content management and enterprise search, accelerated shared business processes, and facilitating information sharing across boundaries for better business insight. Yeah, wow. My hair blew back. I mean, what is that? I mean, that to me is not a practical, saleable definition. I can't use that in my day-to-day. So I thought, okay, this is the horse's mouth. This is Microsoft. They built it. Let's go to the people's definition. The people's encyclopedia, the Wikipedia. So according to the Wikipedia, Microsoft SharePoint is a collection of products and software elements that includes Internet Explorer-based collaboration functions, process management modules, search modules, and document management in a document management platform. So I want to point out a couple of things here. Internet Explorer-based collaboration. What do we know about Internet Explorer? Well, it's a browser, right? That's one software title. Collaboration, this word appeared in the previous definition, and I think it's important to draw some similarities between the two. Collaboration, we know that this is working together, not necessarily how. We haven't got into that yet, but this is the type of interface that we might be getting towards here. Process management, search, we all understand Google, so maybe they made it a little bit better. And document management. Does anybody here share a document on a server with a group that you have to check in and check out? Is anybody fit? Yeah. And this is a very easy thing to do, right? Like if I've got it checked out and you've got a deadline of 4 o'clock and it's about 3:45, you wouldn't be, you know, waiting on me, would you? Yeah, no, I'm being rhetorical. Of course I'd be keeping you from doing what it is you need to do, because that's how that technology works. And what I'd like to propose to you is that SharePoint might actually make it work better. So, let me give you another definition, according to myself. SharePoint is like software as a service, and all anyone needs is Internet Explorer to use it. Now I'm just curious, this is pretty new. How many of you have heard of software as a service? Yeah, it's yeah, a few of us, and honestly, not many. And I didn't expect to see many hands. Software as a service is really kind of a new avant idea in the sense that we all know if we want to have a software title for ourselves, we would go to the store. Perhaps we want to file our taxes. We would buy the tax software. We would bring it home. We would put this on our computer. We would hit install. We've got the software. That's how that worked. Well, imagine I've got a server where I've installed the software and I give you an account and I make it available to you on the web. Functionally, what would be different? Well, the interface, for one, we'd be using Internet Explorer. We wouldn't actually click a desktop shortcut to load a software. We would have gone to a website of sorts. We would have used a secure login, but as far as all the functionality of that software, it's the same. So this is a game changer because now the disks don't need to fall out of our cereal boxes anymore. It's all available online. In much the same way, the access to SharePoint and the tools of SharePoint are all available on our network. All we need is Internet Explorer, and off we go. Let me give you another idea. One of the things that came up in the definitions was the idea of a collection of software. I think that this is really key, especially when we think about Microsoft products, right? Show of hands, how many of us are familiar with the Office, the Microsoft Office? Yeah. Who doesn't use Outlook? Yeah, all the hands are down. We have to. It's part of our enterprise-level communication structure. It's integrated with a lot of what we do. But when we say Office, it's really just a whole bunch of titles bound together. The greater banner being Microsoft Office, the individual titles being Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. That's just a family of products. SharePoint is similar in the sense that there's a number of functions that are similar to those titles, and they're available through our web browser. So another idea I wanted to give you, just as a general concept. SharePoint is like a bulletin board, but one that you would plug in. A bulletin board, I think, is a really fun example in the sense that if I brought the bulletin board that faces my working group to all of you, knowing that we're not in a working group, but we all work for the same corporation, I'm pretty sure that none of you would find that information immediately relevant because it's my work group's bulletin board. But those that are in my work group, we might really hang on the moments where those bulletin boards are updated. We might really want to see those photos. Right? Hey, that was a great, I remember that. It was a good shot. We can share those moments. That type of content, that type of approach to content, that type of thinking around relevancy, I think is very key to making a SharePoint space successful. Really encouraging the uptake. So, how does this change what I do? Well, I don't know about you, but I've got a way of doing things. I've got my own workflow. So if you're not improving how I get there, making it faster, I'm really not too interested. So I want to make that case for you. Now, this example I think is fun. Has anybody ever tried to email a file, something that we thought was a reasonable size, but as we tried to push it through the email server, we realized it's a little too big? We've got to find another solution. A workaround. So this is easy. All we do is write that file to a disk and send it inter-office mail to one of our coworkers in another building if we like. Hey, it's 2009. Let's do it better with SharePoint. This is so, I love this. I'm obviously making a bit too much of how complicated it is to send a file. But I love that SharePoint helps make this easier. So again, I said I would demonstrate how this would improve or why you would want to use this. We upload a file. As we do that, we have the option to simply right-click after doing so and email a link to the file. Now this may seem a little odd. Why do I want to email a link to a file? All right. So show of hands here. How many here have ever made a typo? Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're all perfect, please. Okay. I've made a typo. But I've also made that typo into a much bigger problem because it was an important document and I sent it to everyone. Now, how many of you have actually tried to use the email recall feature? Yeah. That big red flag that says, quick, open it before it self-destructs, somebody made a mistake, right? This is shining a light on yourself saying, oops. Now, here's a very discreet way to handle that situation with SharePoint. Let's presume that this file that I want to email a link to has an error in it. Terrible error, whatever. If people haven't already gone to engage the document, I can change it out in the background so that when they click that link again to go to the document, they get the most current version. A hot swap. The other thing that's really important, if I send out that error document and somebody thinks it's hilarious and wants to send it to her friends, I can't stop that. And what we end up doing when we send out these documents is we create a copy. So if I say, don't worry, I'll include you all on a group email, you'll all receive a copy of my PowerPoint. Well, I've just replicated it that many times. And if you send it to other coworkers, it becomes an exponential replication. Whereas that is only one file. Now, from a technical standpoint, this is huge because, let's face it, we don't have an infinite amount of storage. I mean, storage did get cheaper, but it's still a resource. We have to treat it with care and concern. So, one of the things that I first thought when I was looking at SharePoint was, okay, this is fun, you know, it's kind of exciting, but I don't really have time. I've got reports I need to generate. I've got metrics I need to, report to others. Well, now we think about the collaboration function of SharePoint. Could you use a hand? Well, sincerely, I could. Let me give you an example of something we were working on. This is 2009 with SharePoint. This is the daily publishing list. So in the Corporate Web Services group, one of the things we tracked was every update to Calgary.ca. So in this case, Mr. Balachuk here, he noted 4 different updates that he had performed. This is pretty standard. We were doing this via email and text files and large archive documents where we kept a repository of all this information. All we ended up doing was transposing that information to SharePoint, and what that allowed us to do was have multiple users contributing at the same time. So I showed this to you as an example of entries that were created by other users. So we see Mark had 5 entries, but at the bottom, Derek Haberfield here did 131 entries. And these are all happening at the same time. Remember that problem we were talking about where I checked out your document at 3:45 and you wanted to go at 4? We wouldn't have that problem. Not at all. And what was really interesting was, we didn't know this, but 311 was absolutely hanging on these updates. They wanted to know so that they could update their information request database. If we took a page off Calgary.ca and their attendants were punching through to see, oh yes, certainly I can get you that information. Oh my gosh, it's broken. So what was interesting about this was our correspondents in 311, they don't have to wait. This information was aggregated in real time throughout the day. So they could pick a couple of times, 10 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, and keep their entire team up to date. And it wasn't this big, landslide of work to do. Let's face it, at the end of the day, that's just bad timing, bad planning. So we were able to fix that. Let me give you another example of something that I like about SharePoint. I point this out because one of the things that I know Mr. Rob Crystal has talked about before is the templates. Great example of a template. Do you have a meeting, perhaps, in your group that is scheduled with any degree of frequency, say every week, every 2 weeks, every month? There's actually a template in SharePoint to help you schedule that. It'll help you aggregate all your agenda items. It will help you compose a calendar. That's out of the box. All you have to do is tell it who's coming. That seems kind of nice. So, again, you don't have to put a lot of thought into the design details. They're all ready to go. I wanted to make this point one more time. This, I think, is going to be one of the keys to any individual's or any team's success with SharePoint. Making sure that you have a very clear purpose and very compelling content in the sense that it's practical, it's useful, it adds value to someone's day, or it saves them time. So why don't more people use SharePoint? Well, again, I said before, I don't think that it's widely understood. I think that's part of the uptake issue. But more importantly, it's not something that is... It's not something we would use in our homes. Let's face it. We don't buy SharePoint for ourselves. It's important to know that SharePoint is really an enterprise-level solution. So our corporation is interested in it, has invested in it, has been deploying, testing it for, I'm guesstimating it's been about a year or more. And ours is not the only corporation. But this isn't the kind of thing that you just, turn on and let people run wild with. You are going to notice over probably the next, and this is my personal estimation, 2 to 5 years, the uptake with SharePoint, the uptake of SharePoint in corporations is going to be very large. Why? SharePoint happens to be one of the best-selling titles that Microsoft has. SharePoint is not replacing what you already have. This bothered me a great deal. The idea that Are you kidding? I'm going to have to learn a whole bunch of new Microsoft product just to get my job done. For crying out loud, I've already got. Back off. You know, I was personally a little put out at that idea. However, what I've discovered for myself is that these work like much of the Microsoft tools we know already, but they actually work better. So where we had perhaps just a regular saw, now we've got bigger saws. We've got bigger hammers. We can be more effective. We can do more with the same or less effort. So let me show you some examples of how you could use SharePoint. I want to get practical now. This is an example of just a blue theme template. This is a SharePoint workgroup that is just a screenshot from within the city here. They almost all look like this out of the box. What you may not see, though, if you were to go back to your office and you were to log in, is that little button in the top right corner, Site Actions. This is where the good stuff's hidden. So some people have access to this, some people don't. We're going to talk about that point later. I want to show you what's behind door number 1. All the magic happens right there, the Create button. This is the complete list of everything you can create out of the box as of today. No waiting, no money down. On the left we have libraries. So underneath we've got things like picture library and document library, wiki library. These essentially are all network folders. They're just containers where we would keep this type of information. And what's kind of convenient, and I'll show you an example of this a little bit later in the presentation, if you have photos to share and you select the photo library template, well, what's nice is it'll automatically generate thumbnails for you. That's handy. So it makes some really smart choices on your behalf if only you tell it what type of content you're going to put in it. Now let me jump all the way to the far right. On the far right we have web pages. Now web pages are exactly what you think they are. They are pages that you could set up to represent information. And the way that you can set that up is actually much easier than you would think. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later as well. But the juice, the real core content is in the middle. These 3 columns. We've got communications, tracking, and custom lists. When I say those to you, it might sound a little bit overwhelming. You know, well, what do I use all these types of lists for? What's a list? Can we relate this to anything we already know of Microsoft? Yes, we can. These are essentially Excel spreadsheets. And I mean that literally. All of these things are in one way or another a pre-formatted Excel spreadsheet. So when you think of information you need to represent, if you can do it in columns, and you can do line after line of related information underneath those column headers, you can very easily, and I do mean very easily, relate this information in SharePoint. And I'm going to show you how. This example here, well, let me jump back. This is a spreadsheet. We've all seen this. Title, business unit, assigned to. So we've got 9 lines of information. I jump ahead. This is the very same information represented in SharePoint, and there is an import function. So there we see title, we see business unit, we see assigned to. Functionally, not that much different. But what's great is, okay, let's go back to our network folder. You ever try to share a network folder with somebody in another business unit? Yeah. Well, first you put in the remedy ticket, okay? Then you wait because remedy's rather busy, and then they're going to assign. Wait, we need to know what's the Canis number? No, let's face it. It's a different process, right? This is a gift from IT. They said, heck, if you want to assign permissions to see this list, go ahead. We don't have to set up a remedy ticket. If you and I are administrators on this space, who should have access to it? The whole company? We can do that. Really, you and I can do that. No remedy tickets necessary. And I do mean that when I say this is a gift, because we are empowered to do a lot with these tools. So, okay, I know this is everybody's gonna come to this point. Someone's gonna say, that's neat. Oh, you got all my information up on SharePoint. Wow, we can share it using a URL instead of having to send a network folder link and get access. Great. I have a report that's due. I need an Excel spreadsheet. This fancy new schmancy business doesn't help me do my job. You report to me. I need it in an Excel spreadsheet. Let's face it, that's going to be the reality for most of us. We still have to be able to plug into our traditional business models, our traditional ways of reporting. But remember, we're dealing with Microsoft here. These are the guys who built Excel. So they put export to spreadsheet in there. That's out of the box. We didn't have to pay extra for it. Well, now, if you got, you're smiling. Yeah, because you realize the same thing I did. That's all I have to do, export to spreadsheet, sure, attach it, send it off. Done. That was pretty handy when I realized that. And this is what they would see if they exported it. So, Let me move on to another example of lists, because the way it appears, I think, is going to be very important for many of us. This is a list called Picked Up in the Media. So what's being tracked here are press releases that were picked up by local media and the associated value that was assessed by a third-party marketing company. The problem with this list is that it's not organized in any particular fashion, right? So we can actually repurpose this information if only we click on the view. So one of the things I did for my boss was I said, well, let's put the sum total right at the very top, because that's a bragging right. That's a number that he can take to a meeting and go, you know how much money we saved? Wait, let me get the live number. And he'll go to the site and find it. He'll have it like that. He doesn't have to wait for the report to be generated. All he needed was the link. So if you need to reorganize this information, perhaps alphabetically, by value, by department, you can do all of that. But let me give you another more practical example, in my opinion. This to me, okay, sure, we've got all the information on the page, but this is not sexy. I'm a visual kind of person. And this, we've got an event, we've got a start time, we've got an end time. This is not how I would want to see event information. I mean, this isn't a really practical way of reflecting this. SharePoint allows me to change it into something we all know and love. A calendar. Track things on a calendar. And I hope I'm not spoiling. Spoiler alert, can I do it? That man there, Mr. Dan Phelps, he's part of the WebWave team. He let me in on something just last week. Now you can dynamically link a calendar created in SharePoint to your own Outlook. So you got that user in your group who's like, you know what, I have to go to the SharePoint. Oh, you know someone. Okay, well, we won't name names. You just give them the link, they click on it, it becomes part of their Outlook. So if you change something here, it's reflected in their Outlook. That easy. So again, I told you about the libraries before. I promised you this example. This is a pre-formatted library where you can upload your images. You can do this by either uploading them through the function you see on the left, or again, change the view to something a little bit more common. You want people to be able to upload and share documents quickly and easily? You can drag and drop them. Now, I want to just point out in the corner, we're still seeing the remnants of the list information. This is within the browser, right? This is not actually a file viewer. It's not a separate window. It's all the same browser window. So this makes sharing things a lot easier. The rest of this, I think, is stuff you'll probably enjoy discovering more on your own. But I talked about web pages briefly. Anything that's a list can be represented on a page. And when you change when you want to add something to the page, you just click Add. This makes things a lot easier. And this would be an example of one of those lists where if you want to add something, you just put a check mark box next to it and off you go. So one of the things, I'll mention this part briefly. If you need to limit access to something, you can. If you have really sensitive information that maybe only 5 people should know, or maybe an entire Outlook distribution list should know, you can set those things if you have the administrative powers to do so. Now, here's the neat... I was talking about the empowerment before. This is literally what I mean. Every SharePoint workgroup or collab site is issued with 2 people being administrators and a BERC, your business unit records coordinator. Thank you. I forget what it means, but ours is Joyce Lark. She's a lovely lady. So her and I have signed off on a few of these applications to get these collab sites going. But myself and other coworkers, we are the administrators over these spaces. And I would really encourage you, if you want to get involved, you want to get going. We know you can't really submit a remedy ticket. You know, it's not going to be as practical to submit a remedy ticket to gain access to do what I'm telling you can be done. I would encourage you to find that person in your group, find that person in your business unit, buy them a coffee. Say, hey, you know, I'd like to get juiced. You know, I want to be on your side of the fence. I'd like to do a few things in here. Can you tell me about your approach? Can we work something out where maybe I can work on this side of the fence, you work on that side, or can we work together? And that's really why I make this presentation. I'm not part of the WebWave team. They invited me to make this presentation, and I was honored. I was flattered because I feel the need to pay it forward. I'm here, and I know this because somebody, Connie Brander specifically, in my business unit, said, you know what, Doug? You're a little nutty, but I trust you. So don't break it. Go ahead and learn. And because she empowered me to do that, a coworker empowered me, not a manager, a coworker empowered me, I was able to do this. And I'm very, very hopeful that you will find the same insights, the same discoveries, the same value in this that I did if you were given that opportunity. So buy that person a coffee, get to know them. And finally, go do it. Get her done. Try it out. Maybe you're not the kind of person who wants to be an administrator. You just want to know how to use this better. They have that training. You want to learn how to make this thing hum? They can teach you that too. And just recently I learned they've also added the training information that if you want to be, or if you should be editing content on My City, they can teach you that as well. So my intent today was not to teach you specifically where to click and how to do that, but I hope I've made a case as to why you might want to do that, why it's worth talking about within your business unit, why this might save you some time. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, I would love to take them, but really, the experts are all at the back of the room wearing those name tags. Our WebWave team is present. They've got the entire internet at our disposal. They can show you anything you need to know. They are the gurus, and I would really encourage you to engage them, especially if you're excited about this, because they can help you get going. It really doesn't take long to get one of these sites up and running if you don't have one already. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and patience. I know I've managed to go a little bit over. Oh, and I get to give something away. Okay. Do we have a live internet? I keep forgetting that. We do. All right. This is going to be a trick question here, seemingly. Okay. So, of the 5 different places we have to go across the top, where do you go to create your very own collab site? Shot in the dark. Who wants to take it? Throw your hand up if you got an answer. Let me see. I got it in the back. Tools and resources. A very good guess, but not the correct answer. Anybody else want to take another shot at it? Oh, these ladies they're collaborating here. I said put your hand. No, just kidding. You're absolutely... Wait, did you say site actions? Oh, no, that's the juice tab. You only see that if you're an admin. I'll take another answer. Work groups, absolutely. You click on work groups, that's going to give you all the instructional information you need that you can create your own work group, your own collab site. Again, these words are a little tomato, but it's the same thing, and it's everything that I showed you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy SharePoint, and thank you, WebWave.